Welcome into Top Shelf, presented by Enterprise. Big trips, sudden detours, or last-minute plans, whatever it is, we're here for it. Fellas, we are here a day removed from the 2025 Hockey Hall of Fame class being inducted. We kind of touched on it last week, but some big names. Alex McGillney got in, who we didn't talk about last week, but that's great to see. He was
long overdue.
Long overdue. I think like in the grand, at least in hockey, like he was kind of one of those guys. I mean, you look at like Barry Bonds and stuff in baseball, but that was like the NHL's equivalent of it, where he just wasn't getting in, despite everything he's done for the sport. But we saw Jumbo Joe get in, Zdeno Chara, Duncan Keith, so a lot of fun names, and we're gonna base today's episode off of the similar idea of Hall of Fame classes, but we're gonna go a little bit into the future here and talk about active players and their cases to get in. And we're not saying that these guys won't all get in. There's definitely a chance that they could. We're talking about some pretty good players here. But for the sake of discussion, the sake of debate, we're going to talk about who gets in first. If there's a first ballot Hall of Famer and a second ballot Hall of Famer, who's who. We're also, just for the people back home, Sidney Crosby's not going to get talked about today, unfortunately. He's a, Connor McDavid, whoever you want to say, even some guys who might not be locks just yet, like a Kucherov or something. We're not going there. We're kind of talking about some fringe guys, and then we do have a special installment of two guys who should get in, but let's see who gets in first. But I'm excited for this because I think Hall of Fame resumes in hockey can be based off so many different things. And so today we're going to compare and contrast what that exactly means. And I'm starting with the very first one that we have here, two seasoned vets, starting with you, Josh. Who gets in first? Who's more worthy, Brad Marchand or Corey Perry?
So these guys are very similar in my eyes in their career arcs. Both certified winners. Definitely a guy you'd want on your team instead of playing against.
Yes.
Pesky to play against. But I'm going with Corey Perry. Perry's 20s were way better. I know Marchand's 30s have been a lot better, but to me, Perry has that peak of that Hart Trophy season, 50 goals. Marchand, as good as he's been, was never in that conversation for best player in the game right now, but Perry was, at least for one season, and to me, that's what puts him over the top.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the worm, too, Corey Perry here. I love the trajectory, the sort of journey that this guy's been on. So you mentioned the Hart Trophy season. He won the Rocket Richard Trophy that year, too, in 2011. So he's got that peak. He's got that time when he dominated the league. And mind you, it was also in a period of time, his prime, when the league was pretty low scoring. So, you look at his numbers and you go, he's not even at 1,000 points. What are we doing here? But I think we need to factor in the context of, the meat of his career. It was low-scoring hockey. So there's that, and then he won a cup. He's been to 5 other finals, which is just wild, and that's been a part of his story in the back half of his career, where he's become this sort of hired gun / villain and bounced around the league and become very useful around the net in the playoffs. But the one thing for me is just this guy, some guys win a cup or two, maybe they win 3, and it's you could maybe if they're a role player, it's I kind of got lucky.
Yeah.
He contributed, but he got lucky. But winning follows this guy around Memorial Cup, World Championships,
Gold.
2 Olympic golds,
yeah.
Literally name a competition, and he's won it.
Every single thing.
So, at this point, it's not a coincidence, especially when you factor in all those cup finals he's been to. It's he's clearly doing something to push his team in the right direction.
I was going to, obviously it doesn't, I'm making a joke here, but do all those cup finals losses, chip into all the wins that he has? Does it dig into the resume of it?
Is it a negative, and now he's at 0?
You got gold medals, but you also lost 100 times in the Stanley Cup finals,
Yeah.
so it should even out. That kind of just goes towards my argument. I'm on the Brad Marchand side of this. I think it's not the best comparable because actually Perry was end of the first round draft pick. He wasn't a top 3 pick or something. But Brad Marchand was a 3rd rounder, 71st overall. And for a guy to build the legacy that he has from a draft position like that, I know guys go later than that, but to carve out the role that he did where he entered the league as a scrappy guy, a villain, and for him to turn it around and turn in an 100-point season when he was mid-30s, early 30s a couple of years ago, speaks to kind of just the career that this guy's had. He's been betting on himself the whole time. He wins a cup early with the Bruins. He's part of I know they didn't have the cups to back it up, but the Bruins were a bit of a dynasty on the surface, I would say, for a good chunk of years there. He got the captain in Boston. Has Corey Perry ever been a captain? I don't think so.
I don't think so, no.
He got his gold medal in 2014. Like, Brad Marchand's had a hell of a career for a guy who's undersized and scrappy, and the way that he's gone about it is super impressive to me. And I just feel personally that he's had a bigger impact on the way that NHL has gone as opposed to Corey Perry. Just the mold that he's kind of filled out. Who were we just talking about a couple weeks ago who's kind of acquired a similar run and gun style of play? But like, he's kind of shown that you can be small and undersized and still figure it out. So I'm a Leafs fan, so it's not easy for me to just be like, yeah, Brad Marchand's awesome. But especially, too, what he's done in Florida. Like, I love that acquisition by them, and it really paid dividends. And he got his second cup, more than Corey Perry. Definitely hasn't lost as much as Corey Perry has in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm on the Brad Marchand side of things, but I think this is such a toss-up. And I think, too, like, Corey Perry is also a scrappy guy. I'm not gonna throw that to the side. So
He's the worm.
He's the worm for a reason. Yeah, I think this is, like, probably maybe the closest matchup that we have on this whole list. This one's really good.
It's two really fascinating cases, though, because if you just looked at career points, and there's a lot of guys who have better resumes in that sense that aren't in, but because these guys are such winners, I think they're both getting in for sure.
Yeah, and let me just throw something out there that I think helps frame the episode, too, in terms of, like, Hall of Fame debates and everything. I can't remember who I heard this from. I think it was Howard Beck, the NBA reporter, but he sort of framed it as, like, when you're talking about Hall of Fame candidacy, like, you need to also think about, like, what was this guy's place in sort of the league at large during his peak, or even just throughout his career. So, like, the way Beck put it was sort of like, was this guy essential to the story of his era? Yeah. And I think you can, Perry, sure, yes. Marchand, sure, yes. Like, I think they both get those check marks, whereas there's some players, hint, teaser, I think there's one in this episode that we're going to talk about that just doesn't quite make the cut, where it's like, if you're writing a book about whatever, hockey in the 21st century, from 2000 and now, like, how much love are you giving the player? Is it a chapter? Is it a couple paragraphs? Is it a couple pages? Or is it just, like, in passing one line? And, like, some guy, like, obviously a McDavid, like, he's getting a full chapter, right? Whereas I think Perry and Marchand, like, they get in that sort of hypothetical book of this era.
I think the longevity and the impact that they've had to winning teams. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think this is just off the top of the head. He's not in here, but like, I look at a guy like Artemi Panarin, for example. Like, he's had awesome seasons, been a really high producer, but like, at the same time, like, he kind of has always been, he's not like a top 5 player. Maybe he had a season or two at that. Like, there's guys in every sport that kind of are like that. They're so elite, but they never really do enough to get there. So I agree. I think that kind of stands at the point. The next matchup, we have another two guys who are on the tail end of their careers here. John Tavares and Claude Giroux. Who do we think gets into the Hall of Fame first, Josh?
I think it's Tavares. I don't think either of these guys are necessarily locks, per se. I think Tavares has a better chance. And that's just because of the longevity of this guy. I mean, he's, 35 years old, and he's still producing at an extremely high level, not really showing any signs of slowing down. There might be a rut here or there, but I think he's really aging gracefully, and I think that shows the testament of, like, the commitment this guy takes to leading and taking care of his body, and just an absolute Iron Man. I know he never had an amazing peak, really. Was never really in those Hart Trophy conversations.
He got 2 finalists.
Okay, so
he came
there you go. Yeah.
He came third twice. So
even he has the Olympic gold too. That's going to help. I know he got hurt at the tournament in 2014, but he still has that gold medal at home, which will help his case one day. I think it's just overall better player than Giroux over a longer period of time.
I'm on the Tavares train here too, and 500 goals, 1,100 points in 1,200 games. Like, he's somewhat close to a point a game. That's massive. I think, too, there's a sort of trailblazer element to this, where he was the first guy to get exceptional status to the CHL. Like, this guy's had the spotlight on him since he was 15 and has risen to the occasion. Yeah, would it be nice if he had a cup and, a Hart Trophy and whatnot? Yes. So I don't think he's a slam dunk to get in. But compared to Giroux, who I find is, like, a good candidate for the Hall of Very Good versus the Hall of Fame, that's where I see sort of the difference. Is, like, Giroux, again, going back to is this guy essential to the story of the sport during his prime, even during his full career? I don't think he is. Like we can tell the story of the NHL and leave Giroux out, like, 100-point season. Okay, that's fine. But other than that, I don't see the Giroux sort of case as far as, like, it being robust and even beating a guy who, like Tavares, who's very much on the fringe.
Yeah. I'm gonna be going against the grain here again, as I did with the last one.
Okay.
This one's a more difficult argument for me to make. Part of this is just like I want to have some fun going against you guys. I will say though, in the Claude Giroux camp, how many more? What do you think the point differential between Tavares and Giroux is all-time points? I mean, I
think it's probably very close, but Tavares is a few years younger.
He is a few years younger, but I was shocked. Claude Giroux has 8 less points than John Tavares does at this very moment. When I was shocked, I thought it was going to be like, I thought my case was going to be a little bit harder to make. But I do think that it's worth, like, I think there's a valid argument to say that Giroux kind of, at least for a season, might have had the higher peak. But I also think it's fair to say, like, he's has a better playoff resume too, right? He has to. He's got
he's been to a cup final.
The cup finals, and he was captain in Philadelphia. And I think that a good way to phrase it, sure, are the Philadelphia Flyers of the 2010s like a super impactful team of the last generation? You could probably say no. They went to the cup, but like they didn't do a ton after that. But them doing that and his place on that team compared to John Tavares' Islanders and what he's been on the Leafs, where he's been like the third or fourth fiddle his entire time here, I would argue that like he really hasn't contributed to any winning hockey. Like the Leafs sure have been good, but again, he's not a key cog on that team the way that Claude Giroux was on a couple very successful Flyers teams. So I think in the grand scheme of that, like you want to compare like the legacies of the Leafs and the Flyers of recent years. I would say that the Flyers at least have a better track record in terms of going to Cup Finals and the rivalry had with Sidney Crosby too. I think that you can throw that in where people are saying, oh, maybe he's better than Crosby, and he's like the only guy that's like trying to fight Sidney Crosby. There's a lot of like intangibles that come with Claude Giroux that aren't exactly, you don't see them on paper, but I think that adds to the element of what he's kind of contributed to hockey. I think do we think he gets in still? Like you're saying Hall of Very Good.
I'm not
sure if you say Tavares gets in, like
like if it was my decision, I would say no. But like Guy Carbonneau's in the Hall. Like they've sort of slipped the standards a little bit, where it's like you can maybe make the case down the road, but he's not first ballot by any means. He might be one of those guys who's out of the league and then 20 years later gets in. Like I don't know.
Pierre Turgeon eventually getting in one of those cases.
Do we think like if he obviously Brad Marchand had the cup already, but if he took a Brad Marchand role on a Panthers team, kind of like what happened last year?
He tried actually.
Yeah, he tried with the Panthers.
He did try with the Panthers when they weren't powerhouses, but if he slipped in for a cup at the end of his career, does that get him in? I
guess. I don't know. Like even Giroux, like if you compare like where Tavares and Giroux are at right now, like I just find Giroux is just kind of a passenger on the Senators team, and like we've got Tavares really cranking it up at 35 years old. So. And then, you bring Marchand into it, obviously having a fantastic season, has been very relevant the last few years. Like, I feel like out of those three guys in terms of, like, similar age and all that, it's like Giroux's just very much the third guy in terms of relevance.
Yeah.
You made me think about this a lot, though, and I do wonder if you pulled, like, players back in sort of, like, the heyday of Giroux and Crosby and Tavares when they were a little younger. Who did they hate playing more against? And I kind of think that might be Giroux. I'm kind of arguing against myself here, but I think he was probably a more tenacious competitor.
Yeah, as long as there's a point to be made, I think that the matchup's pretty fair, and I think it's comment section can be a third party here. But
there you go.
So far, we're through 2 here. We've got Corey Perry as the majority in 1, John Tavares in the next. Up next, this is a fun one. These guys are a little bit younger. Auston Matthews or Jack Eichel? Who gets into the Hall first? What do you think, Josh?
This is really tough, and I'm doing a bit of projecting here, but I think it could be Eichel by the end, and that's because he's trending in the right direction. Eichel's coming off his best year. I know Matthews has more individual hardware at the moment with the Hart Trophy, 3 Rockets. Eichel's coming off his best year. He's having another great season right now. Matthews is, I don't want to say he's on the decline, but he's coming off his worst year. He hasn't looked amazing to start this season. He's on a worse team. Eichel has the cup ring, too. If Matthews never wins a cup, what if Eichel wins another 1 or 2? He's set up for that success on a great Golden Knights team. He's playing out of his mind right now. I think right now, yes, maybe it's Matthews, but by the end, I'm projecting that Eichel could have a greater case as a legacy player.
Oh, mind that.
We only have the data that we have in front of us, right? Like, I appreciate the projection, but in terms of what's actually just, in the present, no one's scored more goals than Auston Matthews since he entered the league, 410 goals, which I had to look up today because I know that was the fact, coming into the season last year, but I'm like, is he still? Because he's been really trailing off with the goal scoring pace. But 410 goals, he's above Ovechkin, Pasternak, Kucherov, McDavid, Draisaitl. Like, he is still the goal scoring king since 2016. Like, that's a big sample now. He's got that Hart Trophy. He's got 3 Rockets. And yes, the playoff success is an issue.
Eichel does have better playoff numbers too, like points per game, playoffs, goals per game. Playoffs is very close.
Games
too.
played.
I just think the hardest thing to do in hockey is score goals.
100%.
Matthews has been prolific. It's not, we're talking about this at a time when he's not looking, as sharp as he used to. But I think like if we're ending both their careers right now and putting one in the Hall, it goes Matthews first, then Eichel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the Matthews camp too. Although I do think it's close, and I do think also if Jack Eichel can get another cup, this debate might just come down to who can help Mitch Marner win more. And obviously we know
who wins a cup with Marner.
who can possibly win a cup with Marner, and it's Jack Eichel. But I think this is a really close one. I think just because yes, Matthews is more prolific and he has all the counting stats and stuff, but like Jack Eichel is no slouch either, and to be a leader of a Stanley Cup winning team once, and I think that he could certainly do it at least one more time, maybe 2, with how this Vegas Golden Knights team is built. It's a lot of like, are you a numbers guy or are you a winning guy? And so I do still think though, like being such a prolific goal scorer, Auston Matthews could never go to the playoffs, and he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer if he keeps up this pace. I think there was a point last year where he was he had more goals than Ovi did through X amount of games. Like
sure.
He was actually tracking to
the start of his career has been
break
insane.
the goals.
He's the
record.
only one with a realistic chance of actually.
Yeah, exactly. So when
breaking
you're
the
that
goals
good of a
record.
goal scorer, I don't care if you lose every single game. If you can score that many goals in the NHL, you obviously deserve to be first ballot and over guys who have good numbers but just not the same numbers. So I'm in the Auston Matthews camp as well.
To go back to Wegman's projection, like Eichel has really turned the corner as a two-way player since he got to Vegas under Bruce Cassidy. Like, everyone loves to talk about Auston Matthews' two-way game, and I think that's appropriate. I think he is a Selke level center most years, but like Eichel's already at that part too, at that point too. So, also interesting with they're both American. Like, you're going 1-2 with them at the Olympics probably, right, at center. So embarrassment of riches for the Americans, and also they're around the same age. Like, interesting thing to track moving forward the next 10 years.
I do think it's cool these guys being drafted a year apart have really led that wave of USA hockey that we're seeing now. Like all those players coming in, they were kind of the first ones to really not put them on the map, because USA hockey was always on the map, but really bring them
the new
more
era.
level with Canada.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. It's a shame because, like, I think I said yesterday in our production meeting, like, man, I wish Patrick Laine had panned out. Like, we could have had that debate. And Jack Eichel, you can't really debate with Connor McDavid ever. But yeah, the way this is formulated, I like this matchup. On to the next. So Auston Matthews take the cake there. We're going to the defensive side. Defensemen are tough because, like, you have some locks and then you have some mushy middle. So both of these guys could get in. Both of these guys could not get in. But I think they're pretty comparable. Roman Josi or John Carlsson? Who do we think gets in first?
I've got Roman Josi. I think Josi will get in eventually. Might not be first ballot or anything like that, as long as, he doesn't retire tomorrow. I still think he needs to play a bit more. I don't think Carlson's going to get in necessarily. I know he has the cup ring, but Yosi's prime was so good. Like, he was so elite. Won the Norris one year, had 2 more runner-up finishes, like one of the very best at his position for at least a 5-year stretch. I don't think you can say the same about Carlsson, so that's why I give Josi the nod.
Yeah, has Carlsson ever been a top 5 defenseman in the league? Like, maybe for like a year, maybe 2, but it's not like we've ever thought of him in the discussion of best in the world, whereas Josi has been. He literally won a Norris, but also other years he's at least in that sort of like inner circle discussion. So I think that alone puts Josi on top. But then you also factor in, like, he's had nothing to work with in Nashville. Okay, Philip Forsberg, a couple other solid players, but like, especially with the way that he plays, the offensive has been running through him. He's good defensively. Like,
he's always been the engine of that team.
Yeah, and if you want to look at like legacy and stuff, like, I think more minor hockey players, youth hockey players, have looked up to Josi than Carlsson. Like, look at the type of defensemen coming through the league now. They're more Josi-like than Carlsson. And I do appreciate Carlsson with the big booming shot and his contribution to Washington's power play back in the day, and all the assists to Ovi. Like I get the Carlsson love, but it's way more of a longevity play than a peak play. And then there's also the factor of, like, Roman Josi, best Swiss player of all time. Okay, it's not a great hockey nation, but it's a pretty good one. So like that deserves some sort of check in his case.
And they're getting better now, partly because of him, I would
Right.
assume.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
again,
that's
legacy factor.
That's fair, but I mean, I'm going to take the side of John Carlsson and argue the only reason USA Hockey is where they are today is that World Juniors winning goal all the way back in, what, like
That's a good show.
2009?
That's a good show.
When they won their first gold in forever, that honestly, like, I think of John Carlsson, that's one of the first things that comes to mind. But who knows? That goal might have got Jack Hughes into hockey. I don't know, Quinn Hughes.
One of the Hughes.
Maybe
Luke
Luke
was like 2 years old.
maybe one of them. But no, I'm gonna go against the grain here again with John Carlsson, just because Roman Josi is kind of like, in my mind, I know he's got a Norris at least, but like very similar vein to kind of the Artemi Panarin of defensemen. Like, they went to the Cup Finals once, but aside from that, it's been a lot of really great numbers on some very underwhelming Nashville teams.
But is that his fault, right?
It's not his fault,
Yeah.
but when you look back, again, I love this metaphor that you've used, but I'm opening up the page to the 2010s of hockey. I don't see anything about the Predators here. There's nothing at all. Oh, there's something.
There's the Caps.
There's a blurb on Shea Weber, which is great. Who was awesome with them, but like, are we really like Shea Weber and Roman? The Predators, we're going to say that they had two Hall of Fame defensemen playing together. Like, I'm not going to look back and think of those two guys as, or at least the Roman Josi aspect. And John Carlsson, the nod I'll give him is, has Ovi had some, better wingmen throughout his career? Sure. And Alex Semin, Nick Backstrom.
Yep.
But those guys both, for different reasons, didn't stand the test of time the way John Carlsson has. And you think of the Capitals, who have been so impactful the last few years, and they got their cup, and it's Alex Ovechkin, and then you think of the next guy, and it's John Carlsson. So I think his contribution to Alex Ovechkin's legacy is absolutely enough to get him into the Hall. Like, I think of Duncan Keith's a bad example because he's got 2 Norrises and has been great, but like, even like if Brent Seabrook were to get into the Hall of Fame, I know he's got a little bit of international success as well, but like, just being a part of the Blackhawks teams on the back end, I think of him and I think of his success as a part of that team, and I think of the same way as John Carlsson.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it hard because if you think of those Washington teams, they win President's Trophies. They obviously eventually win the Cup. They have a bunch of these intense series with the Penguins. I mean, it goes Ovechkin, then Backstrom. Is Carlsson the third guy in there? Is it like Holtby, or is it?
Kuznetsov was so good on that.
He won a Conn Smythe, did he not? Or he should have won the Conn Smythe?
I think Ovi got it, but Kuznetsov, you could have made a really strong case for him.
And then Oshie's in there as sort of a clutch guy.
I would say Carlsson a notch above Oshie.
Yeah, sure. So he's 4th or 5th on a team that won 1 cup.
He was great on that playoff run.
No,
course,
yeah.
But
I hate.
I know what you mean.
Really ripping guys who are like all timers at the end of the day. But like, I don't know. I just find Carlsson kind of not Giroux. I think he has a better case than Giroux, but like still in that bucket of Hall very good. Where it's like I honestly don't even know if Josi really. If it's like gun to my head, like should he be in? I don't quite know. I want the Hall of Fame to have high standards.
That's what I mean. It's like, is Roman Josi a guy that you look back in 10, 15 years and think of? He did have, like, what was the one season? Where was he in points? He was like scoring
96 points.
Yeah, he didn't win the Norris that year.
Yeah, so it's like
crazy.
That was an insane year, but I don't know. I think that one's a super good debate too, especially given the kind of state of defensemen right now. And like I said, Makar and Hughes for sure will be in, but then it kind of tails off with some of the guys a little bit or older than them. This one's really fun. We've got 2 left here. And this was John's idea to put this in because you can't use Stanley Cups as a conversation when you use 2 guys from the same team. We're going with the Los Angeles Kings pillars of the last 15 years. Anze Kopitar or Giroux Doughty. Who do you put in the Hall first?
Man, this is really tough. Again, because putting 2 guys who are absolutely necessary pieces of those 2 cup teams that they had, which is crazy. We were just talking about this, how neither of them won a Conn Smythe with Jonathan Quick and Justin Williams. But I've got Drew Doughty by a hair. I think just Doughty was one of, if not the best players at his position for a long period of time in his prime. Kopitar, as great as he was, the Selke trophies, I think he was maybe a Hart finalist once. I don't think he was truly in that conversation of best player at his position, whereas Doughty was, and that to me is what gives him the nod.
I hate to agree with Josh so often in this episode, but here we are. Yeah, I'm a Doughty guy in this, but it's by like a hair.
Yeah.
Like it's And what it comes down to is like, with teammates, okay, same amount of cups, same amount of longevity at this point. What's the deal breaker? It's the higher peak, and I think that Doughty hit that. Even though Kopitar, you could maybe argue that if we could define defensive contributions better, he gets that nod. But I also just appreciate that Doughty's this sort of like old school guy who will come through Toronto and has to have a soundbite.
Yeah.
And he's there's all these clips of him chirping, and he's just sort of like this, kind of like a Joe Thornton. It adds to his case, the sort of the larger than life aspect of him, and he's so competitive. And I don't know about you guys, but two-way defenseman gets thrown around a little too easily on players. But I feel like Drew Doughty is if you look at his full career, he's been 50% defensive, 50% offensive, really down the middle. And I think that's a huge compliment to him, especially knowing when to turn on the defense, when to turn on the offense. So he's just really savvy in that way, and he's still pretty relevant.
He's played the position exactly how a coach would want you to play it.
Yeah.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, Andy Scott. I'm a Drew Doughty guy, so I definitely understand what you guys are saying. I'm also an Anze Kopitar guy. I have Anze Kopitar jersey hanging in my room at home.
Oh wow!
So I'm gonna get on my high horse here
and
vouch for him, because I think people. I don't think he's underappreciated anymore. I think he definitely was for a long time, as is the case with a lot of two-way forwards. Patrice Bergeron, I feel like didn't get his flowers until the last few years of his career. But where I would like to start this argument with is just the fact that if you go down the list of NHL players with the most points that aren't in the Hall of Fame yet, it goes Jaromir Jagr, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Malkin, Patrick Kane, and Anze Kopitar.
That's impressive.
He's sixth on that list, which is pretty crazy to me because I honestly thought he was going to be a little bit lower, just given kind of his style of play and what he's, he hasn't ever been pacing the league in points or goals. But I also look at Drew Doughty's. They're both high picks, but Drew Doughty a little bit higher. Kopitar comes in the league. He's the first guy ever to come into the NHL of Slovenia. He gets them into the Olympics too. That's the whole international side of things we can't discredit. Where he's playing the Olympics with his dad coaching and his brother also on the team. It's like
Unreal.
they just threw together the first 10 guys they saw in Slovenia and fielded an Olympic team. So that's something I appreciate. Just doing it.
Yeah.
It goes kind of to your guys' Josi argument, which I'm now flipping sides and being the guy from a smaller European country. But in terms of he's such a tone setter with this team too.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Doughty, don't get me wrong, is an awesome locker room guy, a guy you want on your team. But the poise that Anze Kopitar has played with throughout his entire career, even as a guy from a smaller country who might not have been as known coming in, that's my favorite part about what he's done, and just such a good playmaker. He's still on there he's announced his retirement next year, and he's still power play one. He's still first line on that team, and he's still producing. This guy is just such a solid player and such a crucial part to the Stanley Cups as Doughty was. So that's why I give him the edge. I also give him the edge for being one of the first and best, I would say, founders of the tinted visor, because he was so he had such a dark visor.
Now that's a legacy bullet point.
That's a legacy. Yeah, there should be a page on that. Ovi and him
Style
with
points.
the crazy
Style points.
visors, but this one's really close. I got to go with my guy.
They're obviously both
they're both
super worth.
first
They're both in.
ballot.
They're both in.
Oh,
no doubt.
doubt.
First
It's almost
ballot.
just your preference on the guy.
It is.
No
We've
doubt.
talked about their personalities a lot. It's kind of interesting. They almost perfectly complemented each other of what a locker room needs. You need the culture setter, more serious guy leading by example,
Barkov.
Kopitar or
Yeah.
Barkov, and then you have Doughty, who's keeping things loose, keeping things
The Kachuk,
yeah,
who he's had a
exactly.
rivalry with.
90s
Exactly,
and stuff. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So those are we got 5 there, 5 legit conversations. We have one slightly illegitimate conversation we're going to have before we wrap this up, because we were trying to find a way to get goalies involved, and it's similar to the defenseman kind of. You either have guys definitely in, or you have Connor Hellebuck and nobody else. Connor Hellebuck is really the only bubble guy right now.
I
to
think
me,
he's gonna
and
make
I
it,
think
but-
he's
I think
in
so
too.
too,
I don't
yeah.
think there's anyone you can stack him up with. But one of the guys I tried to stack him up with is Jordan Binnington, and I know it sounds crazy, might be looking at me sideways right now, but Jordan Binnington, if he wins a gold medal with Canada at this Olympics, if he leads them to a gold the same way he just did in the Four Nations, is there a case for Jordan Binnington to find his way into the Hockey Hall of Fame with a gold medal at this Olympics? Again, kind of leading the team the same way. What do we think, Josh?
Absolutely. Let me give you the
Oh,
list.
you forgot the not part.
Let me give you the list of goalies who have started for cup-winning teams and Olympic gold medal winning teams.
Okay.
Dominik Hasek, Martin Brodeur.
That's it?
That's the list.
Oh,
That's the list.
Man.
But they've only gone to the Olympics
I know.
4 or 5 times. So.
I know, but
Yeah.
it's the Olympics
Yeah.
have that extra
You're right.
prestige to it.
Right.
Imagine Jordan Binnington being in that. Oh.
I'm not saying Jordan Binnington is even close to the level of those guys, but I think if he does lead Canada to an Olympic gold, he'll have the Olympic gold, the Stanley Cup, and the Four Nations gold, which I say is equivalent to a World Cup gold.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's
The
an
best
impactful
countries were
one
there.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that will eventually be enough to get him in because you look at the way the Hall of Fame values goalies, and guys like Tom Barrasso and Mike Vernon have gone in recently, largely because they've won. They've led their team to cups, and that's pretty much the only reason why Curtis Joseph isn't in there, because he never really
he
won
should be
anything.
in,
I agree, he should be in too. He's an amazing goalie, but he never won anything, and that's pretty much why he's out. I still think he could get in eventually, but yeah, Binnington, if he gets it done, he will get in eventually. It may take some time, but he'll eventually be recognized for being a winner.
I'm a hard no here, and like part of it is projecting that, like, say Canada wins gold. Like, I don't think Binnington's going to be the reason that they win gold, right?
No.
Like, it's going to be Crosby, it's going to be McDavid, et cetera, et cetera. So I just have a hard time wrapping my head around rewarding this guy in such an epic way when he's finished top 5 in Vezina just once. And it was the year that they went on that run and won the cup in St. Louis. Otherwise, very up and down as like a starter. You could just call him like an average starter for his career if we want to be, just keep it simple. So I don't know. I need to see more. I think that's a slippery slope. Although, as you mentioned, like the slope's already slippery with goalies. So like, you bringing up that context, shifts me slightly. But I'm still a no. And I'm just like, we got to hold our ground here, guys.
I know.
Like, it just seems crazy, like that we're just throwing everyone in the hall at this point. But great character, love the fieriness. I love that he tried to steal the puck from Ovi for his 900th goal. So nothing against Binnington, but we need to see more on that resume.
I feel pretty indifferent about this one. Like, I think the obvious answer here is still a no, and that's the side I'm going to end up taking. But I don't mind the point that Josh is making here. And honest, because the way that the Blues won that cup, he was so good that playoff run. Like you said, he was top 5 Vezina that season. It's basically a 1-game sample size from the Four Nations last year. But in my head, if Jordan Binnington has, how many games would he be playing in the Olympics? Like 7 or 8? If he plays like 7 games the way he did in the finals of Four Nations, like, I think there's a chance he could be 7 of those games away from the Hall of Fame. Like, it's crazy to say.
Crazy.
But I don't hate that. Now, do I think he's going to do that? No. So he's also 7 games away from not being in the Hall of Fame. But I think it's a pretty fun debate when you do. Like, I'm glad that you had those resumes on standby with Hasek and Brodeur, because I mean, what elite company that would be. But yeah, that's a fun one. It's a crazy one, but it's a fun one.
Okay, well, let me just toss something out quickly. We don't need to go to town on this, but like, what if Hellebuck doesn't win a cup and Binnington wins that gold? Do we see them as like peers in the Hall of Fame debate, or is it still like Hellebuck? His regular seasons have been so insane that like, he's just automatically in.
That's where this conversation started, because we were trying to think of Hellebuck comparables, and I was like, okay, who's a guy who's got cups and he's got success, but like isn't that great? And I was
I'm still in that conversation. I'm still a Hellebuck guy, but like I wonder if you guys, since you're interested,
I
in this
could definitely
take.
find a way to talk myself into Binnington just based off the success, because it's not like that Blues team was any more better than these Jets teams we've been seeing. Like they I would say that
they went on a hot run. Like
they got hot, but like he was huge, and it's not like Canada and USA as of right now are pretty comparable still.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come down to Jordan Binnington is the better goalie, but in the moments he is.
It's pretty fascinating. I would lean toward Hellebuck still in that sense, because he has 3 Vezinas. It's not like he had one season where he was the best. Like, he's been the best goalie in the league for like a pretty long period of time. But eventually he's gonna have to at least go on like a deeper playoff run, play well in the playoffs, or maybe play if he plays well in the Olympics. And
Yeah, it's been like Vasilevsky and Hellebuck this generation or this era, whatever you want to call it.
I'm
So.
contradicting myself a little bit because I was saying Auston Matthews could score 1,000 goals and never make the playoffs, and he's in. So Connor Hellebuck technically falls into that camp for goalies.
But it certainly gets way more interesting if like
definitely
Binnington
does.
keeps winning for Canada. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy's a stud.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
steps up when it matters most.
There you
right?
go.
Yeah, no, it's true. So yeah, I had fun doing that. We got one last thing. Top Shelf Trivia presented by Enterprise. We are back with another trivia installment and staying in the Hall of Fame lane. I was trying to find a fun question, and I think I did.
Okay.
There have been, in the entire history of hockey, there have only been 5 teams who have had 10 Hall of Famers on the roster at once.
Okay.
There's only been one of those teams in the last 50 years. You have a whole 50, like a bunch of these were the older Canadians teams and
Right.
such from like the 70s and 60s. There's been one team in the last 50 years to have 10 Hall of Famers on it at once. Can you guys name me it? And hopefully you can. Once we do, I want to go down the list and bang off some of these guys. It's awesome.
I think I can. I forget the exact year, but I think it's like the 98 Red Wings, or it's
Detroit
one of
Red
those
Wings?
Red Wings teams from the late 90s.
Do you agree? Or do you
My mind went to the Oilers of like late 80s.
with the
I don't know like what year. Let's just say I'm trying to think of the years they won. 87?
87. We got the Oilers. We got the Red Wings. You would be correct, Josh. And it's actually it's 50 years is a huge oversight. This was in 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
The Detroit Red Wings. You want to name some of the players off this team? It's insane.
So Yzerman, Fedorov.
They had a lot of guys who
Lidstrom.
were late in their career, like Chelios was there.
Oh, so we're talking about
That's the thing.
Like
They had-
guys
they
who
had,
weren't
like,
at
Shanahan?
their peak. Yeah, Shanahan.
They had guys. They had like literally across the entire age spectrum Hall of Famers. Like
What was Brett Hull?
Larionov?
Larionov was there. They had Pavel Datsyuk as a rookie,
Right, that's who.
who's now a Hall of
man,
Famer.
Zetterberg's not in, right?
Zetterberg's not in, no, and he wasn't on the. He was.
Oh, he wasn't
joined
even on the
next year.
team, okay.
And then they had at the end of their career. Here's a crazy one for you: Luke Robitaille
Oh,
was on that
Right.
Red Wings team.
And Hasek on the team
Hasek
too.
was on
what
the
a
team.
team this was.
Brett Hull.
good.
Brett Hull was on
Did
the
we
team.
say Lidstrom? That's obvious.
Yeah.
Nick
Yeah.
Lidstrom. So that's all 10.
my
yeah,
God,
Shanahan,
damn.
Yzerman, Fedorov, Hull, Robitaille, Datsuk, Chelios, Lidstrom, Larionov, Hasek.
What a team.
I
What a
definitely
team.
because Kevin Lowe went in the Hall. I was like, this has to be the Oilers.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
even.
fair.
My mind did not go to the Red because I thought it was like not too recent necessarily, but just like, yeah, I guess too recent
Yeah.
because you need time for all these guys to retire and
Yeah.
get in.
I also just wouldn't have thought that. Like, I thought there was iterations. Like you said, 98. Like there was iterations of those Red Wing team where,
Didn't
like, yeah,
have, like,
Robitaille was
Robitaille
there
and
one
Hull
year and
and
Hull was there the
Hasek,
other.
yeah.
But it's crazy too because I remember I've seen clips of I want to say Hull and like Yzerman talking about that team, talking about Pavel Datsyuk on that team because you have all of these guys and you have like a guy who doesn't speak English who's like a rookie here from Russia and even still like they could. The aura that he had
Sure.
and the way
This
he
guy's a
carried
wizard
himself. They're
with
like,
the
oh,
puck.
like
Absolute
that guy
wizard.
being a contributor on that team with those names goes to show like the career he obviously had.
Did
So,
Hasek play in that?
yeah. It was him
Playoffs?
and, him
Him
and
and
Manny
Oz.
Legacy were the
Legacy, yeah.
the goaltending tandem, and Hasek carried most of the bulk. So, what a fun team! And I'd be curious to see. Like, I don't know when we'll see that again. Like, I can't think of any
I don't know if we'll
teams-
be able to in
Yeah.
the salary cap era.
Probably 10
Just
Hall of
'cause-
Famers, one
yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Especially,
It's
I know a
insane.
lot of those guys were old, but they still had to pay them like a decent
Yeah.
amount, right?
Yeah.
So
It's true.
I mean,
They weren't taking chump
Ye-
change.
yeah.
That's for sure. But yeah, this is a fun episode. Next week's episode is going to be a fun one too because we're going to have our first look at some Olympic roster predictions. So next Tuesday, be on the lookout for that episode. But for John, for Josh, for Adrian, for Zach, and all the guys in the room, thanks so much for helping out. This has been Top Shelf presented by Enterprise. We'll see you next week.